Monday evening, the 26th of July, and you're very welcome to this talk. Now, cases are rapidly declining in the UK over the past 7 days now, but does this mean that COVID-19 is falling out of our lives? I think the answer is not quite yet. But let's look at a bit of context first of all. English-speaking or English-understanding countries, decline in the United Kingdom, definitely there, encouraging. Netherlands, likewise, very encouraging. South Africa, we're less clear about the data. The data hasn't been fully re-established since the riots and things in South Africa. We do believe this is starting to represent a genuine decline in South Africa, which is encouraging. Ireland, cases are still going up, but just maybe starting to turn a little bit now, we're hoping. The United States, we're going to talk about the United States. There are big concerns about the United States, so going up to levelling off there. Barbados is pretty level. I hope you got the chance to watch that interview with Amy recently. Canada going well. Australia, unfortunately, there is a resurgence of cases. And there is community transmission in New South Wales, which is remarkably concerning because it's community transmission of the Delta variant. And this is just rumbling on for a long time now in Australia. They haven't quashed it as they have previous outbreaks. For example, the one in Victoria based on the Melbourne area, this one based on the Sydney area, is still going on. And Australia is pretty well hermetically sealed state from state at the moment, so it will be contained state-wise. The case is the question is can New South Wales, Victoria, and to some extent South Australia keep this contained? It is the big question, and it really is still an open question, and it's been tantalising us for some weeks, but it still is open. Now, moving on to the UK, where things are really remarkably encouraging. So that was the reference for that graphic that we've just shown there, Our World in Data, which does excellent graphics. Let's just look at the let's look at these figures. So here we have the UK. So Monday the 26th today, 25,000 new cases. Now, having said that, there's always some underreporting on Mondays as a result of the weekend. But we do believe that this downward trend is continuing now for the 7th day. Now, when I prepared this, I didn't actually have today's data on, so I'm out of date. So it's 7 days now. So this is incredibly encouraging. So Monday, the amount of cases reported on the Monday, of course, for the day before, 24,950. Reported on Sunday, 29,000. Reported on Saturday, the 24th of July, 31,000. Reported on Friday, the day before, 23rd of July, 36,000. Thursday, the 22nd, 39,000. Wednesday, the 21st, 44,000. So down, 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 down. This is a really encouraging decline in cases. Thursday, the 20th, the cases were 46,000. So it's been going down basically since then. And the peak was Saturday the 17th, which was the week after the Euros, of course, 54,674. Now, we had been predicting numbers for the peak in this outbreak as being 100,000. And we're great to see these are nowhere near that. But there are some provisos. So remarkably encouraging news from the UK. There's no two ways about that. Remarkably encouraging. But we're not there yet because the effects of the releasing of the restrictions, in England at least, on the 19th of July have not yet fed through. So this benefit we're enjoying here is from the week before, and we're about to have the effects of the week after. But let's come on to that. Let's just look at the screen for the UK. So vaccination rates, of course, good, and going on reasonably well. Now, this is actually the drop on the week. So there's 21.5% down on the week. Deaths, though, still going up, but of course you would expect that lag. The lag is still there, even though the link is much reduced by vaccinations. And indeed, admissions are still going up. So But we would expect, because of this figure here, because of the reduction in cases, that next week that'd be down, and the week after that the deaths would be down as well. That's what we would expect, that trend. Because the linkage is still there, even though it's been greatly weakened by vaccination. And when we look at cases, the graph really is looking. Let's go by case date reported. There we see that lovely drop off there. Look at that. I mean, that is really very encouraging from the UK. But of course, we need to try and explain this. But let's just notice first of all that this was the first sustained drop that hasn't coincided with a national lockdown. So that is very encouraging. Now, Paul Hunter, who's kindly appeared on our channel, Professor of Medical Epidemiology, University of East Anglia. The data at present is looking good, at least for the summer. We'll accept that. Today's figures do not, of course, include any impact of last Monday's end of restrictions. So this could well feed through next week. Now, what I am expecting is that cases will start going up again next week. But because they're going up from a lower base of what, just 24,950, 25,000, hopefully they won't go up as much. This lower base is encouraging, very encouraging indeed. So today's figures do not include the impact of last Monday's reopening, which will feed through to some increase in cases. The question is, how big is this resurgence going to be? It will not be until about next Friday. So we're Monday now. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, another 4 days before we're going to know. So for this week, it looks like cases are going to carry on going down, but we won't know that for another 4 or 5 days yet. Now, one thing that was a bit concerning to me was Netherlands and Spain reopening of nightclubs did follow a sharp increase. Nightclubs have caused, unfortunately, outbreaks in, well, many places. Spain for sure, Netherlands, as we've said. Korea, of course, South Korea, it was a big problem as well. Now, moving on to the causes of decline. Now, Scotland's actually been declining longer than England, which is good. Unfortunately, Scotland were knocked out of the Euros relatively early, so there was less of this congregating in relatively closed areas, drinking, watching the football, usually on a screen, of course. So that may be why the cases in Scotland have gone down earlier than England, because in England we had more spread as a result of the football. Good weather, of course, means that people are outside. Good weather means that people make more vitamin D. Good weather means there's lots of ultraviolet radiation. And the ultraviolet radiation will help to sterilise any viruses in the air very quickly. So the amount of virus floating around and anywhere exposed to the sun will be dramatically reduced quickly. So people more outdoors, more vitamin D, more irradiation of the virus, reducing the viral numbers, all encouraging by the good weather. School holidays have started, which means that children are not mixing in classes in school, which is going to reduce transmission. And of course, we come on to the fact that 92% of adults in the UK now have antibodies. Now, not all have had 2 vaccines, of course, as we've just seen. The number that have had 2 vaccines is less than that. It's 70.5% of adults have had 2 doses of vaccine. And we know that against the Delta variant, 2 doses are usually necessary to get good levels of protection. But it doesn't alter the fact the antibodies through natural immunity, about 18% through natural infection. The rest through vaccination is increasing nicely. But this does leave an untapped pool, if you like, of 8 million adults with no vaccination in the UK, mostly children under the age of 18. So there's a fair bit for the virus to spread through yet, but I do believe we are seeing herd immunity effects. So someone who is infected, it's now quite probable that they will expose the virus to someone who has got a large degree of immunity and therefore is much less likely to get infected. So we are seeing this herd immunity effect, I believe, starting to emerge now, much later than we'd hoped because of the increased transmissibility and the increased viral load associated with the Delta variant. Now, one proviso here again, risk of immune escape. Now, so far, the evolutionary driving force that has caused the virus to the virus is mutating all the time, but what is selected for particular mutations so far has been mutations which give the virus the ability to transmit more, like the Delta variant, and therefore it spreads to more people, therefore it reproduces, therefore that's the virus that is selected for and the one that becomes dominant. But there's another big evolutionary pressure starting now, and this is immune escape from vaccine. So now if someone has immunity to the virus, the mutation that will reproduce inside their body is the one which is resistant to the vaccine, resistant to their immune response. So that means the selection pressure now is going to favour any mutation which has resistance to our immunity. So this immune escape driving force now in the evolution of the virus, that is the risk. And the risk is now at its peak in quite a few places in the world. But if we take the UK as an example, the risk is now at its peak because we still have relatively high levels of infection. So there's lots of virus around. Every time the virus reproduces, it can mutate. So there's lots of virus around, and there's lots of people with partial immunity. So that 92%. Who have got that 92% of the population who have got immunity, where only a smaller proportion and a much smaller proportion than 70% of the whole population, because it's 70.5% of adults, remember, that are protected with 2 doses of vaccine. A lot of people have got lower degrees of protection. Therefore, a virus that is resistant to the protection they have is the one that is likely to reproduce. And of course, that would reproduce, and it would then cause a further arm of the pandemic, a further epidemic with a vaccine-resistant virus. That is the worry at the moment. And this is the time it's most likely to occur because of the amount of virus around and the amount of partially immune people around. This is the concern. Now, this doctor, evolutionary biologist, University of Oxford, we are probably at the evolutionary high point at the worst combination of an escape to happen in the UK for those 2 reasons we've mentioned. The UK is in a prone position. Whether it will happen, we don't know. It's more likely to happen here now than ever before. So if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen nowish in the UK. It's a numbers game. Large-scale immunity reduces viral numbers. So as time goes on, there'll be more immunity. Viral numbers will go down. Just now, viral numbers are high and partial immunity is prevalent. So this is the time it's likely to occur. Because, of course, at the moment, 1 in 80 were infected last time from the Office for National Statistics. Now, that'll have probably gone down a bit with the great reductions that we've seen, but there's still a lot of people, there's still a lot of virus around. Escape mutants would be immensely beneficial to the virus. In other words, that would be the evolutionary pressure making an escape mutant, a mutation that is not susceptible to the current immunity that we have, the one that is likely to proliferate. If we compromise the incredible vaccines we have now, I don't even want to contemplate what the world would look like, according to this viral evolutionists. So it is a concern. Delta variant is better at causing reinfection as well as evading vaccine immunity. So that's why that one spread. Beta actually so far is the one that's worst for immune escape. Beta is worse so far for immune escape. But vaccines are still protecting against most hospitalisations. So it may be that this virus does not have the genetic potential to mutate into a variant that is going to be very immune to our vaccines, because so far it hasn't. So personally, I'm hopeful. SAGE is saying this is a low probability event, but other virologists are saying it's a higher probability event. So basically, we don't know at the moment, unfortunately, but that is a risk. Viruses don't tend to be perfect at everything. So what this means is we probably won't get a virus that's absolutely brilliant at immune escape and a virus that's actually very good at proliferating as well. So if there's a change in the spike protein that make the virus more contagious, that may make the virus less pathogenic, or it might make the virus less likely to avoid the immune system. Whereas if a virus escapes to avoid the immune system, it probably won't be more transmissible as well, because viruses tend to be only good at one thing. So I'm fairly hopeful about this. So what I expect is I expect that the cases are going to carry on declining, hopefully for the next few days in this week, because this is a beautiful trend. I mean, that trend is there, and that trend is quite unmistakable at the moment. I hope that's going to continue. But then when the effect of the restriction lifting from the 19th of July comes through, we could see more cases starting to come up from next weekend. Whether they're going to reach the feared 100,000 a day or even more that was predicted, we don't know. They could certainly go up well beyond the 50, 60,000 a day again because of these easing of restrictions that will feed through on the 19th. So that is kind of where we are at with the UK. I'm feeling fairly optimistic, but we're not there yet. There will be increases in cases before we get rid of this virus, is what I'm saying. Let's hope it doesn't transpose through into large amounts of severe illness, hospitalisations and death. But of course, as the vaccination programme continues, that becomes less likely, literally, with every day that passes. Now, the concern in the United States, and it's no great secret, is this trend in the number of COVID-19 vaccines in the United States. It's strolling out. The numbers are relatively low. People are still getting vaccinated, but the numbers are relatively low. So what I want to do now is just show you a few snapshots from the United States that are the reason for my current concern. This is the first one. And the first one relates to the variants in the United States. So we see the B117, the UK Kent variant, getting less and less and less as it's being pushed out. I mean, look at that, there's hardly anything there. B16172, this of course is the Delta variant first identified in India, where now it's become predominant in the United States, and it will go even higher because the B117 has been pushed out way to about probably we're about 98.2% Delta variant in the UK, so that other variants will probably continue to decline in the United States, and this is the transmissible one, so clearly that's concerning. Now, how this is feeding through is this is the increase in cases in the States, and it is definitely increasing, pretty high bars there relative to what they have been. So definite increase in the States, and sadly we are seeing some increase in deaths in the States as well. So this trend in the United States is now, I'm afraid, established. I'm expecting cases to carry on going up in the United States, even as they're going down for another few days in the UK. That's quite a sobering screen, that one, that increase in cases. That's just today's figures in the United States. Now, so they're the links in the United States. Dr. Fauci, US is heading in the wrong direction, direct quote, I'm afraid it is. A pandemic amongst the unvaccinated, I'm afraid that is happening. Delta variant driving spike in low vaccine areas, I'm afraid that is happening, especially in the States where vaccine numbers that we know of are low. Now, Dr. Fauci said that CDC are considering reversing the mask guidance for the vaccinated. I suspect that's going to happen in the States. So I'm expecting that all over the United States, the mask mandate in indoor areas at least will be reintroduced for those that are vaccinated or unvaccinated, to prevent the vaccinated and the unvaccinated transmitting the cases to the unvaccinated who are vulnerable to this. And also, Dr. Fauci is talking about the considering offering booster jabs to vulnerable people. So that's the report from the States. Now, I think we'll carry on and do this now. Gain of function research. This is to do with viral origins, of course. Now, if people keep on looking for long enough, they are going to find the origins of this virus. It does depend how many parties are going to cooperate with this investigation. But we really do need to find the origin of this virus. And there's a big debate going on in the States now about this very thing related to gain of function research. So gain of function research is developing viruses that are potentially more transmissible and dangerous. So in order to study some viruses that sort of sit there not doing much, virologists will genetically modify these viruses to make them more transmissible, more likely to infect cells, more dangerous so they can study them. Dangerous game, but there again, people make guns, sharp knives and warplanes and things. People do tend to do dangerous things. So they do this to gain understanding of the viral evolution. Okay, we'll accept that rationale that they're giving. And they say they do this to develop better treatments and vaccines. Okay, it will do that. It is necessary to some extent for vaccines, but anyway. Now, Dr. Fauci, director of the US National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, now that is part of the US government's National Institutes of Health, which did give money to US-based EcoHealth Alliance. Now, this is now in the BBC, so money was given by the National Institutes of Health. It looks like via this, they gave money to this US-based EcoHealth Alliance. And the BBC tell us, along with a lot of other American outlets, that the US-based EcoHealth Alliance collaborated with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, researching into possible coronavirus from bats. So this is really quite, and then the pandemic arose just a few miles from this Wuhan Institute of Virology, where the money had been given to aid the research on the possible coronaviruses from bats. Now, research, they say in 2014, this grant started in 2014, as we know, and then President Trump pulled the money in 2020 after the start of the pandemic. Now, Dr. Fauci, National Institutes of Health, he says this, has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So complete denial there from Dr. Fauci. Senator Rand Paul. Now, if you put these two guys into YouTube, you get some pretty good debates actually on YouTube between Senator Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci. So well worth watching some of these actually. I wasn't familiar with Mr. Paul before this, but he's a pretty sharp guy, I must say. And I think if you're in the States, tell me if I'm right or not. I think he's a doctor. I think Rand Paul is also a doctor. I think. Asked Dr. Fauci this week if he wanted to retract that statement about there being no funding of gain-of-function research. And Rand Paul says, as you're aware, it's a crime to lie to Congress. Pretty strong stuff. Richard Ebright, this Rutgers University, I'm not familiar with it, sorry. Researchers showed that new viruses were created, risk-creating potential new pathogens. And he says the research in both papers was gain-of-function research. So Richard Ebright is saying there was gain-of-function research by the looks of that, because that's a direct quote. The research in both papers was gain-of-function research. Now, this is what he's talking about here is there was 2 research papers published on this. Now, I haven't had time to look them up today, but it's on my list of things to do tomorrow. So I'm going to look at that and try and report back. I mean, not that I'm in a position to report as an authoritative virologist, which I am not a virologist, but it'll be interesting to read these papers. So more on that when I can get something on it. So he's saying that it does constitute gain-of-function research. The research in both papers was gain-of-function research. Dr. Fauci, research in question has been evaluated multiple times by qualified people to not fall under the gain-of-function definition. So it seems like this research has been going on. And some people are saying it is gain-of-function, and other people are saying it's not gain-of-function. Dr. Fauci said it's a molecular impossibility for these viruses to have resulted in the coronavirus. Now, if that's the case, Dr. Fauci's case is proved absolutely 100%, but unfortunately, I don't know the evidence that he's giving for that. So if he gives evidence for that, then so be it. If the world's virologists peer review that statement and say that, yes, this is a molecular impossibility, but we simply don't have that information. So basically, at the moment, that doesn't mean too much. Dr. Ralph Barrick, University of North Carolina. Work they did was reviewed by the National Institutes of Health and the university's own Biosafety Committee for potential gain-of-function research and were deemed not to be gain-of-function. So supporting Dr. Fauci. We never introduced mutations into spike to enhance growth in human cells. Okay. So and Dr. Rebecca Moritz, Colorado State University. There's not always consensus on gain-of-function research, even amongst experts, and institutions interpret and apply the policy differently. So there we go. Was American money used to finance gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology? No, according to Dr. Fauci. But Senator Paul is asking questions related to that. So more to come on that story, I think, and very interesting it is. But we really do need to find out why this pandemic arose, because we don't want it to happen again. And if this is never fully resolved, let's hope people are a little more humble about what they're doing with viruses, because as we've said repeatedly, we've actually been lucky with this pandemic. We could have had a virus which was 10 times more transmissible with a mortality rate of 80 or 90%. That is not impossible. We're fortunate that the mortality rate, although significant, was as low as this pandemic one has been. Next time we might not be so lucky. So that's quite interesting. Right, let's go on to Wefwafwa now in Uganda, and he's on his second day of community outreach, and today he's treating diabetic patients, and he's just dropped into the market to pick up the supplies to teach diabetic patients how to eat well. So we'll go into Wefwafwa in about 3 minutes, and it's a fascinating insight into nutrition in Uganda, some beautiful fruit, vegetables and fruits in the market, but a lot of ignorance about using them, and Wefwafwa's idea on improving food security in Uganda and indeed in the whole world, which I find fascinating, and hope you'll find this market scene interesting as well.
Hello everyone, welcome to day 2 of our community. Some green food that we're going to I am going to take you back to where we started from. A day before going to the community, we first went to Mbale Central Market, the largest market in Mbale city and even the largest in eastern region of Uganda. Now, we went to the market because we wanted to get some food for the boy that we were going to visit in the community. This year, boy is 7 years old and he has diabetes type 1. So we wanted to get some food that we're going to use to demonstrate to the mother how she can prepare a diabetic meal using locally available food. As you can see in our local market, we have foods that are nutritious, and they are not all that very expensive, but the problem is here. People sometimes look at nutritious food as junk. So we had to get that food and then we can demonstrate for the mama. So as you can see, we bought some green beans. They were packing for us. We bought some carrots, some green pepper. Yeah, we also bought some green pepper. And then I think we bought some ginger as well while we were there. And we also got for them some avocado. So this is where I always buy my food for cooking. I usually buy from that only man, so he knows me, and he was okay with me recording everything there, because one day I told him that I will come and teach people about nutrition using these foods that you're having. And with time, I think I will have to make a video on that. But there was one thing that concerned me. As you all know, we have a lot of cases of COVID-19 in Uganda. But some people here in the market were still reluctant to follow the preventive measures that I've given them. For example, masking up or like putting on a mask. I observed that very many people who were having it were wearing it in a wrong way. As you can see, some people were having it on their chin and some were not having it at all. Yeah, so I think the authorities have to do something to make sure that people are following the preventive measures, because those are the two things that Uganda is basing on to fight COVID-19, prevention and treatment. We are not doing well in vaccination, given the fact that we have low supply. You know that Uganda was importing vaccines from India, and India stopped exporting due to the fact that there was a surge in the number of cases in India, and you all know the situation that was there. So they stopped a bit exporting. So as we talk, the rate of vaccination in Uganda is still low, but people are surviving. Life has to move on. Only that we are in the lockdown that is ending on 30th. Yeah, so those are some of the things that we eat in Uganda. We have onions, we have tomatoes, green pepper, carrots, avocado. Then I think you can see we have yellow bananas in the background. We have cabbage. We have a lot of things, red pepper and then green pepper and many other foods. Now the challenge is not the availability of foods. We have those foods, but the challenge here is poverty. And also people don't like grow such foods on high scale, and yet they are nutritious foods. Most people, when they look at the foods that like I've bought today, here they may think that that is junk food. So we need a lot of sensitization, and we need a lot of telling people, of course, like the importance of growing these plants such that they will not be buying, but they will just be getting them from their own gardens. That is the Uganda I want to see. That is the Africa I want to see. That is the world I want to see, where people can get food without having to buy, where people can live without having to buy life, like being on medicine every day. It is really terrible, and it really moves my heart, more especially when I'm giving someone medicine for 1 month or even for the whole year, and maybe the condition that they are suffering from could have been prevented if we just maybe ate a good diet, or if we just taught someone earlier about maybe lifestyle management, such that someone prevents himself or herself from getting a deadly condition. So we are now leaving Mbale city and we are heading to Namabasa, which is a village also near Mbale city. Today I want to do it in a different way. Some people requested to listen to my song, so I'm leaving it in the background, but I will not be talking as we travel. So enjoy it and hope you will be blessed as you listen. Let's go.
Kama nikako kuinga nisitolongo vivyo ulisindu sishowo yosi vivyo bao sishange vivyo vivyo ulisindu sisho ewe zabu singingi nitinyanza vyosi vivyo vyosi vivyo bao sishange vivyo ulisindu sisho
Hello guys, welcome to day 2 of...
Right, that is for next time. That's at the village. I wasn't going to play all that actually, but Wefwafwa's that was written, played, sung, recorded by Wefwafwa himself. I just got sort of carried away listening to that there. It was very good. So he's going to be treating this young person with diabetes mellitus in the village in the next episode. So if you want to write to Wefwafwa, his email is in the description. Maybe some rich record producer or something like that, because he needs to buy a new motorbike. Well, he hasn't got a motorbike at all. He wants to buy a motorbike to go to the further villages. So there you go. If you know anyone who wants to buy some music. Okay, that is us for today. Thank you for watching, and don't forget, there we go. Take care, refresh your air. Thank you for watching.